The Meaning Crisis. Chapter 1. The Disappearance of Meaning. For centuries, meaning was woven into the fabric of existence. It was not something people had to seek out. It was given to them. Their roles were clear, their purpose defined, their place in the world unquestioned. Life followed a script, one passed down from generation to generation. You were a farmer because your father was a farmer. You were a priest because your community needed guidance. You were a soldier because your country called you. The meaning of life was not an open-ended question. It was a story that was already written for you. You simply had to step into the role, to play your part. But then something changed. The structure that had provided a framework for life began to crumble. The institutions that once gave people purpose, church, tradition, the family unit, the workplace, began to dissolve or weaken in their influence. What had once seemed stable became fragile. People were told they were free to define their own meaning, but instead of feeling empowered, many felt lost. The Great Unraveling. Modernity shattered these old structures. At first, it was liberating. People were free to choose their own paths, to break away from the constraints of the past, but this newfound freedom came at a cost. The burden of crafting a meaningful life now fell squarely on the shoulders of the individual, and many were ill-equipped to handle it. The great unraveling occurred through a slow but steady process of cultural, economic, and technological shifts. Science challenged religious dogma. Traditional religious narratives, which once gave people a sense of cosmic purpose, began to erode under the scrutiny of scientific discovery. Faith, which once united entire civilizations, started to feel optional or even outdated. Capitalism replaced tradition with markets. Instead of being part of a collective culture built around shared values and customs, people were now defined by their role as consumers. Purpose became intertwined with productivity, but when work failed to provide meaning, people were left empty. Technology eliminated the need for survival-based labor. The hard work of survival, which had long given people a sense of accomplishment, was increasingly automated. With fewer struggles for existence, people were left to ask, now what? In removing the old meanings, we failed to replace them with new ones. Instead of stepping into new roles, people found themselves standing in an empty space, a world full of options but no clear direction. We had given people freedom but no guidance. The story had ended, and no one knew what came next. A crisis hiding in plain sight. The meaning. Crisis is not just an abstract philosophical problem. It is a lived experience, shaping the way people interact with themselves, with each other, and with the world at large. It manifests in quiet moments of doubt, in the persistent background noise of anxiety, and in the restless search for something that always seems just out of reach. This crisis is visible in the statistics of modern life. Depression and anxiety have reached historic highs, despite societies being wealthier than ever. Suicide rates continue to climb, particularly in countries with advanced economies where people are supposedly better off. Addiction, whether to substances, social media, entertainment, or even work, has become rampant. Many people desperately seek escape, filling their time with distractions that numb them, but never satisfy them. And yet, this crisis is rarely talked about in clear terms. Instead, people experience it in isolation as though their struggle is a personal failure rather than a widespread societal condition. A world without anchors. Some people turn to extreme ideologies, desperately clinging to a cause that tells them they matter. Others fall into endless consumerism, trying to buy happiness that never lasts. Many simply give up, trapped in a quiet despair that gnaws at them every day, leaving them feeling hollow. But this is not just a matter of personal psychology. It is the result of a culture that has left its people adrift. Without shared stories, without a guiding sense of purpose, individuals are left to navigate a chaotic world without a compass. This is the world we live in today, a world where everything is possible, but nothing feels certain. A world where we are free to do anything but struggle to find a reason to do anything at all. The disappearance of meaning is the greatest silent epidemic of our time. But this is not where the story ends. Because meaning is not gone. It is simply waiting to be discovered again. In the chapters ahead, we will uncover how we lost it, how we can reclaim it, and how we can build a new world that thrives on meaning rather than just survival. This is the meaning crisis, and it is time to face it. The meaning crisis. Chapter 2: A Society Without Direction. The disappearance of meaning did not just affect individuals, it left society itself in a state of aimlessness. The systems that once provided structure and a shared sense of purpose have deteriorated, leaving civilization disoriented and fragmented. In place of a collective story, we have a world that is hyper-connected, yet deeply divided, brimming with information but lacking true wisdom. Once, societies were built around clear narratives, mythologies, religious doctrines, national identities, and cultural traditions. These narratives gave people a sense of who they were, what their role in the world was, and where they were going. But in the modern era, these grand narratives have either collapsed or lost their universal appeal. We have replaced them with economic systems, technological advancements, and political ideologies. But none of these provide a deep and enduring sense of meaning. Instead, society moves in circles, chasing progress without a clear destination. The age of perpetual motion. We live in an age where everything moves at an incomprehensible speed. Innovation happens faster than we can process it. Social trends shift overnight, and political landscapes are constantly shifting. But faster does not mean better, and movement does not mean progress. Society is running, but toward what? Hyperconnectivity has created an illusion of community. We are connected to more people than ever before, yet loneliness and isolation are at record highs. Social media gives us the ability to communicate instantly, but these interactions are often superficial and performative rather than deep and fulfilling. Information overload has replaced wisdom. We have access to infinite knowledge at our fingertips, yet truth has become harder to discern. People are drowning in data, but starving for meaning. Consumerism drives an endless cycle of desire. Material success has replaced spiritual fulfillment. Instead of seeking purpose, people seek pleasure, distraction, and status symbols, but these never satisfy the deeper longing for meaning. The result is a civilization that is constantly in motion but lacking a sense of direction. People are told they can be anything they want, but without a guiding framework, many end up feeling lost and anxious. The breakdown of social cohesion. In the past, shared traditions and common values created a sense of belonging. People were part of a larger whole, and their lives were structured by community rituals, intergenerational wisdom, and cultural continuity. But today, many of these structures have eroded. Families are more disconnected than ever. Generations no longer live together, and the transmission of wisdom from elders to the young has weakened. The family, once the foundation of identity, is now an unstable and inconsistent force in many people's lives. Religion has declined, leaving a void. For centuries, religious frameworks gave people a sense of cosmic purpose, a belief in something greater than themselves. With fewer people following traditional religions, many have struggled to replace that deep existential anchoring. The workplace no longer provides identity. In industrial societies, people define themselves by their professions. Today, as work becomes more unstable and less meaningful, fewer people find identity in their jobs. Work has become a means of survival rather than a source of pride or purpose. Without these anchors, people seek meaning in ideologies, social movements, or political causes, often with destructive consequences. Instead of guiding principles, many of these belief systems encourage division, outrage, and endless conflict. The pursuit of distraction. When meaning is absent, distraction becomes the default. Many people turn to entertainment, social media, consumerism, and even self-destructive habits to fill the void. We have built an entire society designed to keep people occupied, but not fulfilled. Social media keeps people engaged, but rarely satisfied. It offers an illusion of validation, but ultimately leaves people feeling empty. Streaming services and video games create digital escapes. People spend hours in virtual worlds because the real world offers no compelling purpose. The rise of addiction, whether to substances, shopping, or technology, reveals an underlying hunger for something deeper. People chase highs, but what they truly crave is meaning. Society has maximized stimulation but minimized fulfillment. The world is louder, faster, and more distracting than ever, but instead of bringing us together, it has left us feeling more disconnected from ourselves and each other. Searching for a new compass. If civilization is to overcome the meaning crisis, it must rediscover its direction. This does not mean returning to old systems that no longer serve us, but rather forging a new understanding of meaning that can adapt to the modern world. A society without direction is not sustainable. Either it finds purpose or it collapses under its own instability. To rebuild meaning on a collective level, we must ask, how do we redefine progress in a way that includes spiritual, philosophical, and emotional well-being? How can we create institutions, communities, and cultural traditions that foster a sense of belonging. What kind of future do we want to build? And how do we ensure it serves more than just material success? Looking ahead. A society without direction cannot create meaning. It can only produce more distractions, but meaning is not something that can be manufactured or imposed from above. It must emerge naturally from the lived experiences of individuals and communities. In the next chapter, we will explore the post-labor era and how the disappearance of traditional work is accelerating the meaning crisis. If people are no longer needed in the economy, then what are they meant to do? If machines can do everything better than humans, then what is left for humanity? These are the questions we must answer if we are to move beyond the crisis and build a world where meaning can thrive once again. The Meaning Crisis. Chapter 3. The Post-Labor Era. The foundation of human civilization has always been work. It structured our lives, provided purpose, and gave us a sense of belonging to a larger system. Throughout history, our identities have been deeply tied to our professions: blacksmiths, farmers, artisans, soldiers, merchants, and scholars. Work was more than just a means of survival. It was a defining part of who we were. But now that foundation is crumbling. As automation and artificial intelligence rapidly advance, traditional labor is disappearing. The post-labor era is upon us, and with it comes an existential question. If work is no longer necessary, then what is our purpose? The slow collapse of work. For generations, societies were built around labor. The idea was simple. You work, you contribute, and in return, you survive. But over time, technology began to reshape the way we work. The Industrial Revolution mechanized labor. Factories replaced artisans, and machines took over repetitive tasks. The digital revolution automated knowledge work. Algorithms replaced human calculations, and computers outperformed clerks and assistants. The AI revolution is now eliminating decision-making roles. Machines are writing articles, diagnosing diseases, and even composing music, tasks once thought to require human creativity and intelligence. Each of these revolutions increased efficiency, but they also made more and more jobs obsolete. The system was designed to replace human labor with machine labor, but what it failed to address is what happens to the people left behind. The anxiety of being unneeded. For most of human history, work provided people with a built-in sense of meaning. It structured our days, dictated our social interactions, and ensured we had a place in society. The loss of work is not just an economic problem, it is a crisis of identity. As more jobs disappear, people are left wondering, what am I supposed to do with my life if I am no longer needed? If machines can do everything better than humans, then what is the role of a human being? If work is not the source of my value, then what is? These questions have no simple answers. Without work as a guiding force, many people struggle to define their own purpose, leading to widespread existential anxiety. The illusion of infinite leisure. Some argue that the post-labor era should be seen as a time of great opportunity, a chance to embrace leisure, creativity, and self-exploration. But the reality is not so simple. Without purpose, leisure becomes hollow. People may have free time, but without meaningful engagement, they often turn to distractions like social media, entertainment, or substance use. Many still define themselves by productivity. Even when freed from work, people feel pressure to achieve something, leading to cycles of guilt and aimlessness. We have no social framework for a world without work. Schools prepare us for jobs, not for lives of purpose beyond labor. Without training in meaning making, people feel lost when their jobs disappear. Society is unprepared for a world where traditional work is no longer the backbone of existence. If we do not find new ways to create meaning, the transition to a post-labor world will be filled with despair, not liberation. The danger of meaningless economies. As jobs disappear, society is left with two choices: create new forms of meaning, or create artificial reasons for people to continue working. Currently, we see signs of the latter. The rise of fake jobs. Many modern office jobs involve endless emails, reports, and meetings that serve no real function, existing only to maintain the illusion of productivity. The push for gig work and hustle culture. Instead of recognizing the diminishing need for labor, society glorifies overwork, convincing people that endless grinding is virtuous. Economic incentives to keep people occupied. Instead of restructuring society around meaning, governments push people back into the workforce through low-paying, unnecessary jobs. These strategies delay the crisis, but they do not solve it. At some point, we must face the reality. Work is disappearing, and we must redefine what it means to be human beyond labor. A new purpose for humanity. The disappearance of work forces us to confront the meaning crisis head on. If we are no longer defined by our jobs, then we must be defined by something greater. Can we transition to a society built on creativity, exploration, and self-improvement? Can we develop new cultural narratives that provide meaning without relying on labor? Can we teach future generations how to build purpose in a world where work is no longer required? These are the questions we must answer if we are to move beyond the meaning crisis. The post-labor era does not have to be an era of despair. It can be an era of human flourishing, but only if we consciously construct a society that fosters meaning beyond employment. Looking ahead. If work is no longer the foundation of meaning, then what takes its place? In the next chapter, we will explore the collapse of old narratives, how the loss of religion, national identity, and traditional values has deepened the meaning crisis, and what might emerge to replace them. The meaning crisis. Chapter 4. The collapse of old narratives. For centuries, societies thrived on shared narratives, myths, religious traditions, and cultural stories that provided people with a sense of identity, belonging, and purpose. These narratives were the foundations upon which civilizations were built. They answered life's biggest questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What is our role in the universe? But in the modern world, these stories have been fractured, discarded, or rendered obsolete. As belief in traditional structures fades, society has been left without a common guiding myth. This has deepened the meaning crisis, leaving individuals and entire cultures adrift, disconnected, and uncertain about their place in the world. The decline of religion and the search for meaning. For most of human history, religion was the dominant source of meaning. It provided not only spiritual guidance, but also moral frameworks, rituals, and a sense of belonging to something greater than oneself. Religious institutions shaped laws, customs, and identities, giving people a structured understanding of the world. However, over the past century, religious belief has been in steep decline across much of the world, particularly in developed nations. This has created a spiritual vacuum, leading to existential questions that remain unanswered. If life has no divine purpose, then what is its meaning? Without religious morality, how do we determine right from wrong? If we are just a collection of atoms in an indifferent universe, what makes human existence significant? For some, science has provided an alternative perspective, one based on logic, reason, and empirical knowledge. However, science describes how the universe works, not why we should care. While it has given us extraordinary advancements in technology and medicine, it does not provide a moral compass or a deeper sense of existential purpose. The erosion of national and cultural identity. Beyond religion, nationalism and cultural heritage once served as powerful sources of meaning. People found purpose in belonging to a nation, a people, or a shared historical lineage. Wars were fought over national identity, and civilizations flourished based on their cultural strength. But in the modern era, globalization, multiculturalism, and shifting political landscapes have weakened these traditional identities. Globalization has blurred national distinctions. As cultures mix and economies become interdependent, the idea of belonging to a single distinct nation has become increasingly abstract. Political disillusionment has led to skepticism toward national institutions. Many feel that governments no longer represent their values, eroding trust in national identity as a source of meaning. A hyper-individualistic culture has replaced collective belonging with personal identity. Instead of viewing themselves as part of a broader community, people are increasingly encouraged to craft their own individual identities, often leaving them feeling isolated rather than empowered. Without a strong sense of cultural or national belonging, many feel unmoored, disconnected from the greater human story. The death of grand narratives. Throughout history, societies were driven by grand narratives, overarching stories that explained the world and gave people something to strive for. Whether it was the American dream, the march of progress, or the struggle for utopia, these narratives gave people a sense of trajectory and purpose. But today, these grand narratives have largely collapsed. The American dream has been exposed as unattainable for many. Economic inequality, corporate power, and rising living costs have made upward mobility harder than ever. The idea of continuous progress has been replaced with uncertainty. Environmental crises, political instability, and social unrest have shaken faith in the future. Utopian ideologies have given way to skepticism and cynicism. Many once believed in a better world shaped by science, technology, or political revolution. Now, disillusionment with institutions has eroded those dreams. Without a grand narrative, people feel as though they are living in a story without a plot, a civilization moving forward but with no clear destination. The rise of fragmented belief systems. With the collapse of old narratives, people have not stopped seeking meaning. They have simply shifted to new, often fragmented belief systems. Political ideologies have become substitutes for religion. Many now find meaning in left-wing or right-wing movements treating political activism as a form of faith. Consumer culture has filled the void with materialism. Instead of searching for purpose, many seek satisfaction through endless consumption, buying experiences, chasing trends, and indulging in entertainment. Online subcultures and identity politics offer artificial belonging. People construct their identities around niche online communities, often fostering division rather than unity. While these belief systems attempt to provide meaning, they often fail to satisfy the deep existential needs of humanity. Instead of uniting people under a common purpose, they frequently create further division, conflict, and tribalism. A civilization in search of a new story. The collapse of old narratives has left a void, but it also presents an opportunity, the chance to construct new stories, new guiding myths, and new frameworks for meaning. If we are to move beyond the meaning crisis, we must ask, what kind of story do we want to tell about humanity's future? Can we create a shared narrative that transcends divisions and unites people toward a common purpose? How do we balance individual freedom with collective belonging, ensuring that meaning is found both personally and socially? Looking ahead, the collapse of old narratives has left us at a crossroads. Do we continue to drift, letting fragmented belief systems drive us further apart? Or do we construct a new vision of meaning, one that incorporates the best of the past while embracing the realities of the modern world? In the next chapter, we will explore one of the most devastating consequences of the meaning crisis, existential loneliness. Without shared stories and a sense of belonging, people are left feeling isolated and disconnected from one another, a condition that has become an epidemic in the modern age. The Meaning Crisis. Chapter 5. Existential Loneliness. The disappearance of meaning and the collapse of shared narratives have left many feeling deeply alone. This is not simply physical loneliness, the absence of social interaction, but something far more profound, existential loneliness, the feeling that one is fundamentally disconnected from the world, from others, and even from oneself. For much of history, humans were never truly alone. They lived in tight-knit communities, surrounded by extended family, lifelong friends, and shared traditions that reinforced their place in society. Now many find themselves adrift in a sea of people, but without true connection. Modern life has created a paradox. We are more connected than ever, yet more isolated than ever. The social collapse of connection. Loneliness has become an epidemic in the modern world. Despite unprecedented technological connectivity, people feel disconnected, unheard, and unseen. The very tools meant to bring us together, social media, instant messaging, and digital communities, often leave us feeling even more alone. Social media creates the illusion of connection but lacks depth. We scroll through highlight reels of others' lives, engaging in shallow interactions while neglecting meaningful conversations. Hyperindividualism has replaced communal life. In the past, people depended on one another for survival. Today, self sufficiency is seen as a virtue, but it often leads to isolation and disconnection. The decline of traditional communities has eroded belonging. Churches, local clubs, and neighborhood gatherings once provided built-in social structures. As these have faded, many people have been left without an automatic support network. Loneliness is not just emotionally painful, it has serious consequences. Studies show that chronic loneliness is as damaging to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It leads to depression, anxiety, and a shortened lifespan. Yet society continues to push people toward greater isolation, encouraging individual success over communal well-being. The isolation of the digital age. The digital world has changed human relationships in ways we are only beginning to understand. While the internet has expanded our ability to communicate, it has also fundamentally altered how we connect. Online interactions replace in-person connections. Virtual friendships can be meaningful, but they often lack the depth and warmth of face-to-face relationships. The anonymity of the internet fosters division. Instead of uniting people, digital spaces often become battlegrounds of hostility, where individuals feel more disconnected than before. Endless entertainment provides escape, not connection. Many choose to immerse themselves in games, streaming, and social media rather than engage in real-world relationships, deepening their sense of isolation. In many ways, the digital world has become a substitute for real life, but it cannot replace the depth of true human presence and understanding. The search for belonging. Loneliness is not just about lacking company, it is about lacking a sense of belonging. Humans are wired to be part of something greater, yet modern life has stripped away many of the places where belonging naturally formed. The workplace is no longer a social hub. Work used to provide camaraderie and a shared purpose. Now, with remote work and corporate alienation, many people feel like mere cogs in a machine. Friendships are harder to maintain. People move frequently, schedules are packed, and digital communication often replaces in-person connection. Romantic relationships are increasingly unstable. The rise of casual dating, declining marriage rates, and shifting cultural norms have made deep, lasting partnerships harder to sustain. Many are left searching for a tribe, a place where they truly belong. Some find it in niche online communities, political movements, or fandoms, but these often provide temporary rather than lasting fulfillment. The role of meaning in overcoming loneliness. Existential loneliness is not just a lack of people, it is a lack of shared purpose and connection to something greater. When people feel disconnected from the universe, from history, from each other, they fall into despair and alienation. The antidote to loneliness is not merely social interaction, but meaningful engagement with life itself. To overcome this epidemic, we must rebuild connection in multiple ways, rebuilding communities, creating spaces where people can gather, share, and support each other, deepening relationships, focusing on quality over quantity, real conversations, real friendships, real presence, finding purpose beyond the self. Loneliness shrinks when one feels part of something larger, whether through art, philosophy, activism, or shared projects. Looking ahead. Loneliness is a symptom of a greater meaning crisis. The more disconnected people feel, the harder it is for them to find purpose. In the next chapter, we will explore why so many people turn to distractions, addictions, and extremist ideologies in their search for meaning, and how these often fail to truly satisfy the human need for connection and purpose. The Meaning Crisis. Chapter 6. The Rise of Distractions and Extremes. As meaning disappears from people's lives, they do not simply sit in stillness and accept their existential emptiness. Instead, they search desperately for something to fill the void. Some turn to endless distractions, numbing themselves with entertainment, consumerism, or compulsive behaviors. Others gravitate toward extremist ideologies, clinging to rigid belief systems that offer a sense of certainty in an uncertain world. Both paths, distraction and extremism, are symptoms of the same crisis, a world struggling to function without a unifying sense of purpose. The Age of Distraction. The modern world offers an infinite supply of distractions, more than at any point in history. We are bombarded with entertainment, information, and stimulation designed to keep us engaged, but not fulfilled. Social media provides instant gratification, but no deep connection. Algorithms are engineered to keep users scrolling, always seeking the next dopamine hit. Streaming services and video games create endless escapism. People consume entertainment passively, immersing themselves in virtual realities rather than confronting the real world. Consumer culture encourages mindless consumption. People chase new gadgets, fashion trends, and luxury experiences, believing happiness lies in the next purchase. Distraction is the easiest way to avoid the discomfort of existential emptiness, but it is a temporary fix, a way to pass time rather than engage with life in a meaningful way. The descent into extremism. For those who cannot tolerate distraction alone, extremist ideologies offer another escape from meaninglessness. These belief systems, whether political, religious, or social, provide a clear black and white worldview, offering their followers a sense of certainty and belonging. Political radicalization provides a manufactured sense of purpose. Many who feel powerless or disconnected immerse themselves in extreme left-wing or right-wing movements, believing they are fighting for a cause greater than themselves. Conspiracy theories explain a chaotic world with simple answers. When reality feels unstable, some find comfort in believing shadowy forces control everything, rather than accepting the complexity of life. Religious fundamentalism promises absolute truth. As traditional religious belief declines, some retreat into strict literalist interpretations, rejecting all nuance and alternative viewpoints. Extremism exploits the human need for meaning and certainty. In a world without a clear story, these rigid ideologies offer a substitute narrative, but at a dangerous cost. Instead of fostering wisdom and personal growth, they breed division, hostility, and closed-mindedness.
Why we seek escape.
Why do people fall into distraction or extremism instead of seeking authentic meaning? Because it is easier. Seeking true meaning takes effort. It requires self-reflection, intellectual honesty, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty. Distraction and extremism provide quick answers. One offers entertainment, the other offers dogma. Both prevent people from engaging with the deeper questions of life. Our society encourages both. Corporations profit from distraction, while political and ideological leaders thrive on division. Neither benefits from a population that is self-aware and meaning-driven. The need for real engagement. If distraction and extremism are the default responses to meaninglessness, then the solution is to reclaim authentic engagement with life. Deep, meaningful work. Instead of passive consumption, people must create, build, and contribute in ways that align with their passions. True connection with others. Instead of performative social media interactions, real friendships and community must be prioritized. A commitment to wisdom over ideology. Instead of accepting dogmatic answers, we must embrace lifelong learning, open-mindedness, and intellectual humility. Looking ahead. The search for meaning is not about finding the easiest answer. It is about building a life that feels truly worthwhile. In the next chapter, we will explore how the crisis of purpose is forcing humanity to reimagine what it means to lead a fulfilling existence in a world without traditional structures to guide us. The Meaning Crisis. Chapter 7. The Crisis of Purpose. The search for purpose is one of the deepest human instincts. Throughout history, people found purpose in their roles within families, communities, and societies. They fought for their nations, built careers, and dedicated themselves to religious or philosophical causes. Purpose provided structure, a reason to wake up every morning, and a guiding force that shaped entire lives. But as the modern world has stripped away many of these traditional anchors, an increasing number of people find themselves asking, "Why am I here? What am I supposed to do with my life?" This is the crisis of purpose, the feeling that nothing truly matters, that life lacks direction, and that our existence is insignificant. It is one of the central pillars of the meaning crisis, and it affects individuals and societies alike. The death of default purposes. For much of history, people were born into purpose. Their lives followed predictable paths that dictated their roles and responsibilities. Family roles were clearly defined. People were expected to become parents, caretakers, or community leaders, and these roles came with inherent meaning. Careers followed stable trajectories. A blacksmith, a farmer, or a scholar often carried on a lifelong craft, passing their knowledge to the next generation. Religion provided an overarching purpose, whether through service to God, spiritual enlightenment, or the pursuit of virtue. Religious belief gave meaning to suffering, struggle, and mortality. But in the modern era, these traditional sources of purpose have eroded. People are now told that they must find their own purpose, but they are rarely given the tools to do so. The result? Widespread existential confusion. Without a clear sense of direction, many people feel lost, drifting from one phase of life to another without a deeper understanding of what they are striving toward. The futility of manufactured purpose. In response to this vacuum, society offers artificial substitutes for true purpose. These manufactured purposes provide temporary meaning, but fail to fulfill people in a lasting way. Career obsession. Many seek purpose in work, equating professional success with personal worth. But as job security declines and workplaces become more impersonal, careers often fail to provide lasting meaning. Social validation. In the age of social media, many people tie their self-worth to how they are perceived online. They chase likes, views, and digital recognition, mistaking attention for purpose. Materialism, consumer culture tells people that meaning can be bought. The latest gadgets, luxury goods, and extravagant experiences are marketed as paths to fulfillment, yet they rarely satisfy for long. Political or ideological extremism. Some people immerse themselves in rigid belief systems, seeking identity and purpose through activism or opposition, often at the cost of open-mindedness and true self-exploration. While these pursuits can provide short-term motivation, they rarely offer a deep and lasting sense of fulfillment. Instead, they often lead to burnout, disappointment, and a deeper sense of emptiness when the illusion of purpose wears off.
The psychological toll of a purposeless life.
When people struggle to find meaning, the effects can be devastating. Studies have linked a lack of purpose to increased rates of depression, anxiety, and even physical health issues. A purposeless existence often leads to apathy and stagnation. Without a strong reason to act, people lose motivation to pursue long-term goals, leading to passivity and a lack of growth. Escapism and addiction. When life lacks meaning, people turn to distractions, drugs, entertainment, or compulsive behaviors to avoid confronting their dissatisfaction. Despair and nihilism. Without purpose, life can seem meaningless. Some fall into deep existential despair, questioning whether existence itself has any value. A society filled with purpose-starved individuals is one that struggles to function. Without personal meaning, people disengage from relationships, work, and civic life, leading to a culture of isolation and aimlessness. Reclaiming purpose in the modern world. If traditional sources of purpose are fading and manufactured substitutes fail to satisfy, how can people reclaim true meaning? The answer lies in redefining purpose on a personal and societal level. 1. The power of self-defined purpose. Purpose does not need to be assigned. It can be created. Those who live fulfilling lives often cultivate their own sense of purpose through creativity and expression. Writers, artists, musicians, and thinkers find meaning in their craft, shaping the world through their ideas and creations. Service to others. Acts of kindness, mentorship, and community building offer a powerful sense of fulfillment and connection. Personal growth and mastery. Lifelong learning, skill development, and intellectual curiosity provide a deep sense of achievement and engagement with life. 2. The need for a new cultural framework of purpose. Society must shift away from shallow, materialistic definitions of success and toward a more holistic understanding of fulfillment. This could mean education systems that teach meaning making. Schools should help students explore philosophy, creativity, and self-reflection rather than simply preparing them for the workforce. A culture that values community over individualism, encouraging people to engage in collective efforts rather than isolating themselves in the pursuit of personal achievement. Recognition that a fulfilling life is not about money or fame, but about alignment with one's values and passions. Looking ahead. The crisis of purpose is one of the greatest challenges of the modern era, but it is also an opportunity. A world without default purpose forces people to create their own. In the next chapter, we will explore how emergent meaning, the idea that purpose is something that naturally develops over time rather than something we must force, could offer a solution to the meaning crisis. The meaning crisis. Chapter 8. Emergent meaning. If the meaning crisis is defined by the disappearance of purpose, then the path forward must be about rediscovering meaning, not by force, but by allowing it to emerge naturally. The traditional model of meaning was rigid. It was dictated by religion, work, family, or national identity. But as those structures have faded, we must recognize that meaning does not need to be assigned from above. It can arise organically from the complexity of life itself. This is the concept of emergent meaning, the idea that meaning is not something imposed upon us, but something that develops through our experiences, relationships, and engagement with the world. Why meaning must emerge, not be forced. Many people believe they must discover their purpose, as if it is a hidden treasure waiting to be found. Others believe they must choose a purpose arbitrarily, treating it like a product off a shelf. Both approaches are flawed. If we assume meaning is something we must find, we risk waiting indefinitely for an answer that may never come. If we try to create meaning in an artificial way, we risk forcing ourselves into a life that does not truly resonate with us. True meaning is neither something we passively wait for nor something we arbitrarily choose. It is something that emerges naturally over time. How meaning emerges. If meaning is emergent, then how do we cultivate it? The key is engagement with the world, with people, and with ourselves. Meaning arises from action, exploration, and deep participation in life. 1. Engagement with curiosity. Meaning emerges when we pursue what naturally fascinates us. Curiosity leads us to new ideas, new experiences, and new perspectives, gradually shaping a sense of purpose. Those who follow their interests, not in search of an immediate reward, but out of genuine exploration, often find themselves stumbling upon meaning organically. 2. Engagement with struggle. Meaning is not always found in pleasure or ease. It often emerges from overcoming difficulty. Whether through creative challenges, intellectual pursuits, or emotional struggles, the journey through hardship often reveals our deeper values and strengths. People who embrace struggle rather than avoid it often find themselves stronger and more purpose-driven as a result. 3. Engagement with relationships. Meaning does not arise in isolation. It is built through shared experiences, deep conversations, and acts of love and kindness. Helping others, forming communities, and fostering genuine relationships allow meaning to emerge naturally. Those who focus on connection over self-interest tend to experience a greater sense of purpose. 4. Engagement with creation. Meaning often arises through making, building, or contributing, whether that means writing, painting, designing, teaching, or mentoring. The act of leaving something behind, even in small ways, gives people a sense that their lives mattered beyond their own existence. Creativity is not limited to artists. Anyone who engages in shaping the world around them can experience emergent meaning. The danger of seeking meaning too desperately. Ironically, the more we desperately search for meaning, the harder it is to find. Why? Because meaning is not something we can grasp. It is something that arises naturally through living fully. Those who obsess over meaning often become stuck in paralysis, endlessly questioning their existence rather than participating in life. When people try to impose meaning upon themselves artificially, they often feel inauthentic and disconnected from their true selves. The most meaningful lives are not those spent chasing meaning, but those spent deeply engaged in the world. The role of patience in meaning. One of the most overlooked aspects of meaning is time. Emergent meaning does not appear overnight. It unfolds through the seasons of life. What feels meaningless at one stage of life may later reveal itself to be deeply significant. Some pursuits take years before their deeper value becomes clear. Meaning is often only understood in hindsight, after enough experiences have been woven together into a larger picture. The future of meaning. If we accept that meaning is emergent, then we must build a society that encourages exploration, engagement, and patience rather than forcing predefined paths. This means redefining education to focus on curiosity and lifelong learning rather than just career preparation. Encouraging diverse experiences rather than pushing people into rigid life trajectories, allowing people to explore different roles, relationships, and passions without the pressure to figure it all out immediately. The future of meaning is not about returning to the past or forcing new ideologies onto people. It is about creating conditions where meaning can emerge naturally for individuals and societies alike. Looking ahead, the meaning crisis has left many people feeling lost, but it has also opened a new frontier, the chance to build meaning not from obligation, but from discovery. In the next chapter, we will explore what a world built on emergent meaning could look like. A civilization that thrives not on imposed beliefs, but on the freedom to let meaning arise through engagement, creativity, and connection. The Meaning Crisis. Chapter 9. A World Built on Meaning. If meaning is something that emerges through engagement rather than something imposed, then what would a world look like if it were designed to foster emergent meaning? How can we reshape society to ensure that individuals are not left adrift, but instead find deep, fulfilling lives rooted in a sense of purpose? The meaning crisis has shown us what happens when societies strip away the structures that once gave people direction without offering new frameworks to cultivate meaning. In this chapter, we will explore what a world might look like if it were intentionally built to encourage exploration, connection, and engagement with life itself. The foundations of a meaning-centered society. A civilization that supports emergent meaning must focus on three fundamental principles. Freedom to explore. People must have the space and opportunity to engage with life on a deep level, allowing meaning to emerge through curiosity, creativity, and personal experience. Community and connection. Meaning thrives in relationships. A society that fosters strong interpersonal bonds, shared experiences, and collaboration will cultivate deeper purpose. A culture of growth and contribution. Rather than measuring success through wealth or status, society must encourage personal growth, mastery, and meaningful contributions to the greater whole. Each of these principles provides a foundation for individuals to construct their own meaningful lives, rather than prescribing meaning in a rigid or artificial way. 1. Reimagining education as a gateway to meaning. The modern education system was designed for industrial efficiency, not for personal fulfillment. Schools primarily train students to enter the workforce, but they do not teach people how to find purpose. A meaning-centered world would approach education differently, emphasizing curiosity over memorization. Instead of training students to pass tests, we would encourage them to explore their natural interests, teaching philosophy, wisdom, and self-reflection. A true education should equip people not only with technical skills, but also with the ability to think deeply about life. Encouraging lifelong learning. Meaning emerges over time, and education should not end after childhood. A culture that fosters continual growth will produce more fulfilled individuals. If education is restructured to cultivate wisdom and purpose, then people will be better prepared to navigate the meaning crisis. 2. Strengthening community and social bonds. A world built on meaning must prioritize deep human relationships over shallow interactions. Intentional communities and shared spaces. Cities and neighborhoods should be designed to encourage real human interaction rather than isolating people in digital or consumer-driven experiences. Civic engagement and collaboration. Societies that promote group efforts, mentorship, and local engagement help people feel connected to something larger than themselves. The restoration of rituals and traditions. Even secular societies can benefit from meaningful rituals, gatherings, celebrations, and shared experiences that create a sense of belonging. Loneliness and isolation fuel the meaning crisis. A world that prioritizes human connection and community building will be a world where meaning naturally emerges. 3. Redefining work and contribution. A world built on meaning must move beyond the outdated view that economic productivity is the primary measure of human value. As we enter the post-labor era, we must rethink what work and contribution mean. Shifting from jobs to vocations, people should be encouraged to pursue work that aligns with their passions, strengths, and the ways they want to contribute to the world. Recognizing non-economic contributions, parenting, art, caregiving, and volunteer work are often overlooked in economies that value only productivity. A meaningful world must celebrate these vital roles. Encouraging creative and philosophical pursuits. Human beings are not just workers, they are thinkers, dreamers, and creators. A world that supports artistic and intellectual exploration will cultivate more meaning. When society stops defining success only in economic terms, people will be free to discover and cultivate their own sense of purpose. 4. Using technology to enhance, not replace, meaning. Technology has become a double-edged sword. It can connect us or isolate us, expand our potential, or trap us in distraction. A meaning-centered society would use technology to enhance human flourishing rather than simply maximizing efficiency or entertainment. Digital tools should foster deep engagement, not shallow distraction. Social media and AI could be designed to help people connect meaningfully rather than fueling addiction. Virtual reality and AI could aid in learning and exploration. Instead of being used for mindless escapism, emerging technologies could help people engage with philosophy, creativity, and self-discovery. A balance between the digital and the physical. A meaningful future will not be fully virtual. It will combine the best of technology with real-world experiences that anchor us to reality. If technology is guided by the principles of depth, connection, and exploration, it can play a crucial role in helping people discover meaning rather than replacing it with artificial distractions. 5. A global shift toward meaning. The meaning crisis is not just a personal problem, it is a civilizational challenge. Entire societies must transition from measuring success in terms of wealth and power to measuring it in terms of fulfillment and wisdom. Leaders should focus on fostering well-being, not just economic growth. Policies that prioritize mental health, personal development, and social cohesion will create a more meaningful world. Cultural narratives should celebrate exploration, creativity, and purpose. Instead of glorifying consumerism and superficial status, societies should promote deeper ideals. The global conversation must shift from survival to fulfillment. With technological advancements making survival easier, the next frontier must be figuring out how to truly live. Looking ahead. A world built on meaning is not just a utopian dream, it is a necessity. As work declines, as traditional belief systems fade, and as technology advances, humanity faces a choice: cling to outdated structures and continue drifting further into meaninglessness, or embrace the opportunity to create a civilization where meaning emerges naturally through engagement, creativity, and connection. In the final chapter, we will explore how individuals can take the lessons of emergent meaning and apply them in their own lives, not waiting for the world to change, but creating meaning for themselves here and now. The Meaning Crisis. Chapter 10, Creating Meaning in Your Own Life. The world is changing. The structures that once gave people direction are fading, and the meaning crisis has left many feeling lost. But this is not the end of meaning. It is the beginning of something new, a new way of seeing the world, a new way of engaging with life, and a new way of creating deep, personal, and lasting purpose. This is your invitation to step forward and claim your place in the story of humanity. Meaning is not something you wait for. It is not something you discover like a hidden treasure. It is something you create. It is something that emerges when you engage fully with life. The power of engagement. If meaning is to emerge, it must do so through action, through participation, through deep engagement with the world around you. To create meaning in your own life, you must choose to engage. Engage with curiosity. Explore ideas, ask questions, challenge assumptions. Learn not because you have to, but because the pursuit of knowledge expands your world. Engage with struggle. Do not shy away from challenges, hardships, and discomfort. Growth happens through difficulty, and meaning emerges when you overcome obstacles. Engage with people. Relationships give life depth. Invest in friendships, family, and communities. Be present, be real, and build bonds that transcend superficial connections. Engage with creativity. Express yourself. Make music, write, paint, build. Leave something behind that reflects your thoughts, your passions, and your unique experience of the world. Engage with contribution. Help others. Mentor, teach, support, and uplift those around you. Meaning is magnified when it is shared. The moment you begin to actively participate in your life, meaning begins to form. The more deeply you engage, the more profound your sense of purpose will become. Embracing the unknown. One of the greatest barriers to meaning is the fear of uncertainty. People crave certainty, structure, and predefined answers. But meaning does not exist in certainty. It exists in the willingness to explore, to experiment, and to trust in the process of emergence. Let go of the need to have everything figured out. Life is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be lived. Meaning unfolds over time through the accumulation of experiences, relationships, and self-discovery. Do not fear the unknown. Embrace it. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Create it. Do not seek meaning in distant dreams. Build it in the present. The choice before you. At this moment, you stand at a crossroads. One path is the road of passivity, of waiting, of allowing the world to define you. The other path is the road of engagement, of purpose, of creation. Choose to step forward. Choose to live fully. Choose to create meaning, not just for yourself, but for the world around you. The meaning crisis is not an individual problem. It is a global transformation. Humanity is being forced to redefine itself, to move beyond old paradigms and embrace a new vision for the future. This is your chance to be a part of that transformation. The world needs thinkers, dreamers, builders, and creators. It needs people who are willing to live with meaning, to shape the future with purpose, and to inspire others to do the same. The journey continues. This is not the end of the conversation. It is only the beginning. The search for meaning is a lifelong journey, one that evolves with time and experience. But you are not alone in this journey. For more insights, reflections, and resources on how to navigate the meaning crisis and build a fulfilling life, visit wendellsdiary.com. The world is waiting for you. Step forward and create something meaningful.